Good morning, guys. Welcome to today's training. Today we're going to be talking about famine and scarcity thinking and the reflex, the chase reflex that codependency conditions us to have. So before we get started with that, I'm going to share this out to the community. If you're new to me, I'm Marshall Burtcher, and I help codependents rediscover their happiness after codependency by knowing and living, by knowing, loving, and living who they are. So that's what we do. I need to share this out to the community, which is a safe haven for survivors of narcissistic abuse, for survivors of chronic childhood emotional neglect, and for anyone that is struggling with codependency and looking for pathways beyond it. Because I use codependency as a reference point to get you to move forward into your sovereignty, into your self-advocacy. So the link is above on Facebook, below on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, because I put out new videos weekly, 2 or 3 times, sometimes 4 times a week. And that gets you signed up. All right, so I've got that shared out now. So how are we doing, guys? Comment below how you're doing. Let me know what's up in your world. My world right now, there's expansion. I've been going deep on a particular aspect of my own codependent trauma, and it really has to deal with this subject. That's what inspired it. I find myself chasing a lot, and I find my brain stuck in this very black and white world of thinking of all or nothing. I'm valuable or I'm not valuable. I'm worthy or I'm unworthy. If person A says this is great and person B says this is not great, then I've got to fix it so both can be great, or it's not great at all. You see that kind of thinking going on? This is caused by the black and white nature of narcissistic abuse and our systems that deal with absolutism, like it's either this or that. And this is rooted also in the concept of scarcity. I either have all the love or no love, right? I'm worthy or not worthy. There isn't a gradient between. There's not a spectrum in this thinking. It's either I have to have it all or I don't have anything. Is this something you guys relate to? Is this something you're experiencing? Let me know in the comments below, because it's actually a pretty common a thing that we really, really wrestle with in this. And this comes from that polarized conditioning that we get from the abuse, meaning they treat us in very grandiose ways. Positive and negative grandiosity triggers us to go in these black and white ways. So famine and the scarcity thinking. So what is this? What am I really meaning when I say that? Fundamentally, most of us have an experience of not having something, especially with abuse and neglect. We haven't had love, we haven't had shelter, we haven't had witness, we haven't had play, we haven't had safe emotional intimacy, we haven't had platonic intimacy, we haven't had companionship, healthy attention, kindness is a scarce thing. And we grow up with a deprivation in these experiences, so our brain's conditioned to look at the lack of what we have and to seek or chase what we see as a resource to fill that lack. And this is a really important thing here. When we think that there isn't enough love available, we're going to cling to what love we think we've got. We're going to hold tight to it, and we're going to let it drag us places that we would never go if we had a reference point to an abundance of love. See, this is why we hold on to the toxic person, the deficient relationship, the empty, yet there's still something there relationship. I call it's something's better than nothing syndrome, where we tolerate it because it's better than what we've had in the past, meaning I'd rather have something than this emptiness that I wrestle with. And this conditioning is a product of our experience of neglect. It's the deprivation that we've endured there, and it's a hard, challenging place to confront. because to enter a world of abundance, we have to think first differently. We have to emotionally open up to the losses we've endured and be willing to receive loss so that we can also receive gain. It's one of those paradoxes that you can only receive the positive if you're willing to receive the negative. And this is because everything fundamentally comes down the same pipe, right? It's like emotions. You can't cut off one emotion and then selectively feel your other emotions. They all come through the same road, so if you block the road, you don't get any of them. Or if you open it up just a little, you're only going to get a little of everything. And so abundance works the same way. If we're willing to receive loss, we're willing to let things leave, we're going to have space to receive things. It will show up and nourish and keep us. So there's this element of shifting our thinking over so that we can identify abundance in our life and begin to trust its existence and trust that we're safe in receiving it and letting things go, because there will be more coming. And one of those principles to this is to realize that abundance is largely unseen. It's experienced in hindsight, right? It's not something that we often see proliferant around us, especially at first. Now, these days, I can say I've got an abundance of love and connection and belonging around me. Even then, my brain's like, but what over there and what over there? We'll talk about that response here in a second. But I can actively identify people who love and care about me, and I start to lose track fairly quickly. That's abundance. That's a presence abundance. But I didn't always experience that. I had to train my brain to identify the abundance. Hi, Tina. And to magnify its presence rather than magnify the appearance of lack. Okay? And this comes down to another principle in this, and it's called quality over quantity. Codependent, we have a huge vacuum in our life, a huge amount of neglect, and that keeps us locked into this idea that quantity equals abundance. So if I have a lot of friends, then I have an abundance of friends. I'm worthy, I'm lovable. I mean, there's all sorts of other meanings that can come with that. But that neglects something that we really want, and that is the quality of the experience we have with those friends. Because I find that a lot of codependents are people who desire meaningful connection with another human being. They want substance. They want to feel it. It's a visceral, somatic, felt experience. And they also want to feel secure. Right? They want to have a variety of resources available so they feel secure, so that they can open up to receiving that. Because, hey, if I only have one person to connect with and they leave me, then I'm abandoned, and that's a really devastating experience. Hi, Anastasia. Yes, Anastasia says, yes, very much not wanting to let go, even though nobody else in my life criticizes me. I think this person is irreplaceable. Precisely. We put a lot of our eggs in that basket. We try to keep that basket. Please stay. And we monopolize one person into being the big holder of all the eggs. And that's because we're scared. We're scared of being rejected. We're scared that of discovering that maybe our fear of there being a lack of abundance is true, and how scary and devastating that would be if that were true. And so we hoard what we get. And sometimes we're hoarding things that aren't great, right? We're tolerating toxic resources because it's still better than nothing. Well, moving into that abundance means we need to move towards quality rather than quantity. So we build a quantity of quality connections. So we have a variety around us that we can lean on. And this creates a sense of safety. Safety, so that we can be ourselves. So it feels safer emotionally, physically, relationally, and socially. Because if person A starts to drift off or they reject us, we still have person B, C, D, and E, and F. Basically, we have a family unit, a social shelter that maintains and nourishes us, and we reciprocate that back to them. This requires us, though, to challenge the black and white thinking of all or nothing. Basically, it's like I have the way I approached it. I know it's kind of a bumpy ride because it feels bumpy to me. Is okay, I have one person, so if there's one, there's at least 10,000. And I had to have a little faith in that. I had to take risks. And not everybody that I got to know liked me, but here's the trick with this, and this is the spectrum thinking that comes in with this. I didn't like everybody that I got to know either. And when I granted that option that, hey, there's people I'm not going to like and there's people that are not going to like me, it softened the blow of rejection. It softened the fear of only having a limited resource towards love or connection or belonging. And it opened me up to more of this reality, this more broad actual spectrum of relationship. The people fit really well in certain areas and really poorly in others. And so I started getting a gradient of friendships, a gradient of relationships. And some of those are very high quality. Some of them are really high quality in specific areas and low quality in others. And some of them are broad spectrum. They apply in a lot of areas. And I started to see that I didn't need that quantity of people. I didn't need 10 billion friends. I just needed a high quantity of high quality friends, and that network developed for me because I got out there and I started accepting and rejecting and being accepted and being rejected, allowing those to become the filters to help me connect with people who really resonated with me and I with them, because we want it to be mutual. It needs to be a me and you situation rather than the either me or you kind of concept. Which brings in another important mental shift for codependence. We need to shift from exclusive thinking to inclusive thinking. This means that I am lovable and hateable or rejectable or indifferenceable, rather than I'm lovable or I'm worthless or hateable. See? And brings in reality or brings in fantasy. It's really important because this is where this chase instinct can really be activated. Because if I'm coming from an either or concept, I'm coming from black and white thinking, and I'm coming from this scarcity mindset. And that's going to cause me to chase people, to try to keep them. I'm going to need to keep this person because either they love me or I'm worthless. Right? Either they're the one that I keep them, or I have nobody. There's nothing else possible. This is where this comes in. And so we become very desperate to keep them in our lives. So it kicks in the codependent chase reflex. I need to keep them. So now I'm going to chase after them and try to convince them to stay in my world. We come back to abundance. We come into this inclusiveness. Then we move back into the ability to accept what is and take appropriate action for ourselves from that. So it's like, oh, they're moving away towards me. They don't really like me. That's sad. And I'm still lovable. Literally, people are, I learned a couple of days ago, some people didn't really like me. And some people really said some pretty mean things about me. Cool. Does not change my lovability. It didn't change my network. It didn't change the family that I've built in my life. So I am both. I am both lovable and hateable and disagreeable and agreeable and yada, yada, yada. This spectrum thinking allows us to really get out of chase because it's like, I don't have to fix that. I have all of this abundance over here. I'm going to go connect over here. Which goes against the grain with codependency big time because we're used to chasing. We're used to bargaining it. We're trying to get the parent to love us or the spouse to love us or the peer to love us. And post-codependency is about receiving and connecting with those who love us and that we love and enjoy too. It's that both and. And that is what we have to train ourselves to go to and become receiving of that. That's the real journey, guys. It's not getting over rejection, and it's actually becoming more tolerance of connection and acceptance. You'd be surprised how hard that actually can be for us as we grow, because we're used to being deprivated. So we have a very, very small amount of capacity for feeling connected. And we're used to chase, and we're used to hunger. And we would see that as a connection because we've equated that with love. Especially in love addiction dynamics, trauma bonding, this is an extremely prevalent concept. But when we move into real connection, we start to feel full. And we're not used to that. We don't know what to do with it. We don't understand it yet. So we have to lean into it. It's like, what is it like to be connected and remain separate, remain individualized? Because codependency is typically an enmeshment protocol, meaning I'm going to dissolve myself to make space for you and become enmeshed with you, so you complete me and that kind of stuff. With a healthy self-advocacy, living from your value, voice, and vision, it's me and you. So we're both separate and connected. It's not but connected and connected. But connected. But me and you. And this creates this inclusive field again, where we're both part of the spectrum of experience in life. We have to become tolerant of that. And this right here, guys, is about, again, abundance. Because abundance isn't black and white. It's got that gradient. And to have abundance, we need to learn how to receive and allow things to stay. Rather than trying to keep them, which is a scarcity chase reflex, we open our hands, we let them stay in our hands. We're not like clenched, we're open. And then learning to nurture that connection through being ourselves and by being responsive to them. And in healthy relationships, they would be responsive to you naturally too. It's kind of this automatic reciprocation that occurs. This is the journey forward here, guys. And it's, for me, still one of the biggest challenges. I've been at this for like 12 years, and it's this long shift for some of us. Some of us get it right out and we zoom with it. I think part of that deals with the particular kinds of trauma we've experienced, especially who, when, and how frequently. And then it has to deal with attachment distress and then personality type. Like, I had really early childhood attachment distress that ended in my mother's death, so there was a total, for the child it was abandonment. It's not like she deliberately died. It's just what life did. So that shaped things up differently than for like other students and clients that I have. They have a different swing through this. So it's okay if it's different, right? It's okay that it takes the time it takes for you, because it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. I want you to know that, because there's still things I wrestle with, and there's things I don't wrestle with at all in codependency anymore. But this is one of them, is inclusive thinking and the chase reflex. I mean, it's still very strong, and it's considerably less than what it was because of the work I've been doing. But some of these things are going to stick around a while because they were your primary means of survival. Me chasing worked really, really well. I became a very good pleaser and fixer. And so that chase reflex was very, very powerful. And so now I'm undoing that by leaning into trust with connection and being wanted and valued, and being unwanted and unvalued, so I can see where to go. Again, that's that filter of using acceptance and rejection as a filter. It's that concept of that. It's like, oh, well, they're accepting me. What do I think about them? Oh, they're rejecting me. Well, now I know where to go. And it's also being proactive about accepting people and rejecting people. Because again, filters, not judgments on those things. So let me know what you think about this. I know it probably felt a little combobulated, but I'm interested in your point of view and how this impacts your life, guys. So I appreciate you. Thank you for showing up for today's training and allowing me to impact your world. So let's see. One last thing, the happiness strategy is again open for enrollment. You can learn more about that by clicking the link above. taking the master class, and you get an opportunity to join the happiness strategy. So I'd be excited to see you in there. What do we do in the happiness strategy? I teach you how to be your value, know your voice, and follow the vision that brings you back to who you are and connects you back to your happiness, which is the antidote to codependency. Because you heal codependency by doing the opposite of it. You can't actually heal codependency by targeting it. You have to actually address what it is to be beyond it in order to actually heal it, because technically you evolve out of codependency. So there you go, guys. I appreciate you. Remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping, and I will see you guys next week on our next video training. Have fun. Have a great day. Bye-bye.